All right, so guys, we are live. Hold on 1 second here. Just getting some stuff sorted. Hold on. Oh, whoops. Let's do this. Welcome, everybody. I'm just getting this stuff set up here. There we go.
We surveyed a cross-section of Canadians.
There we go. I think we're pretty close now.
That they wanted tonight to be heavy on policy, and they wanted to know
All right.
where each candidate stands on each issue.
So yeah, we're covering this.
Our mission tonight is to educate, to engage, and energize all of you.
I've just got to let everybody know that this is going live.
Go to our website, www.conservative.ca, right now while you're watching, and join our party so that you can have a say in our future. Many of you have engaged with us already, and thank you to all of our members who submitted questions for tonight. They were very helpful.
Before we start, a little bit of housekeeping for those here in Edmonton with us. When the candidates come on stage, feel free to cheer wildly. But after that, we
All
ask you to
right.
please dial in during the debate so that we can get through a very busy agenda.
In the debate rules, we were very clear.
Okay, I'm taking my headset off here in a second. 1 sec.
And this is the one rule we really plan to enforce.
I'm just making sure that we actually have this working and it's actually, you can hear it.
So please, no clapping, booing, cheering, or jeering. Let's have a great evening tonight. It is now time to introduce our moderator. For the last 7 years, he's been the chair of Global Public Affairs, but for 45 years, he was a fixture in the living rooms of Canada as one of
All
the
right.
country's most distinguished journalists. He's interviewed every prime minister since John Diefenbaker.
Please welcome Mr. Tom Clark.
All right. Okay, let me grab the link here, and then we're going to go ahead and get this going. So I'm just going to copy this. We're going to jump in, and here's this. We'll paste that. Go ahead and post that. It's going live. We are live. And it looks like we got Tom Clark on stage at the moment now. So I'm going to turn the audio up here a little bit, and I think we're good. So, I wanted to quickly add my webcam here. Hold on.
And frankly, I don't know who is more courageous, them or me, but anyway, here we are.
There we go.
This
There it
is
is.
a very big night for conservatives, obviously. For all of you in the room and conservatives across the country, because you will have the opportunity to listen, to assess,
All right.
and ultimately to judge
Now we're live.
who among these 6 candidates is the best one to lead the party into the future. I would also say that this is a very big night for Canadians everywhere in Canada, regardless of
There we go.
strong
Now we're live.
affiliation,
Now we're going.
because
Hasn't quite started yet,
healthy, informed,
and
passionate debate
I think it's important for us to know exactly who each of these people are, what they're going to be presenting as policy, what their talking points are, and so we can actually understand where this is going,
therefore
and to see if there's anybody here that's not absolutely crazy. So let's see.
on this stage tonight.
It's important for everybody to know who these people are. That's how I see it.
Rick and Diane said, as they say
Even
in
if
the theater business, please
we
remain
presume that
seated for the
they're
entire performance.
not the greatest.
Uh,
So let's just go in with an open mind and see what they say.
nothing, the consequences of what will happen.
Let's see if we can be surprised tonight.
But honestly, tonight, let's just leave the stage to these 6 people. I think that's the right way to go. I'm going to be calling.
And if my audio isn't working that great, guys, just let me know, please. I can't really. I'm looking at my phone here for live chat, but this is the first time I'm doing a live stream on YouTube, and I turns out that I should have done this a little bit. I should have had a little bit more time to prepare, but that's okay. So I plan on doing this for each of these major events. I missed yesterday's Ontario event.
There are 5 distinct parties
But let's just go ahead and let him
And each
talk about this intro here.
will be reminding
So,
the candidates of what the rules are, what the format is, and what the timing is, and through them, you'll be hearing the same thing. So you'll know at the beginning of each segment exactly where we're going to go and what we're going to be doing. Buckle up, everybody. Now, please welcome your candidates for the
all right, here comes the candidates.
Party of Canada.
He has a good announcer voice, though. That's for sure. We'll give him that much. All right, so there's Pierre. Is Patrick Brown going to be here tonight? I think so. He is. Pierre's likely going to be the winner of this contest. But. Oh. There they are. There's all 6 of them. So Patrick Brown did make it.
Good evening, Canada.
He wasn't at the first unofficial one, so.
I do believe this is my problem.
Wow. Good job, guys. Okay, well, at least I'm not the only one that wasn't prepared. The Conservative Party of Canada couldn't get it done either.
To remind you of what we are going to do right off the top,
Oh, God, it's still echoing in the background, too.
presents a little assignment before you came here. You've been working on this diligently for a couple of days now, but what we asked you to do was to finish this sentence. My vision for Canada is.
My vision for Canada is. All right, that's a good one. Let's see what they say.
To tell us what your vision
Let's see if
is.
anybody has any good takes.
But there's a twist, you know it. You can't mention any other candidate on the stage, and you can't mention any other federal leader. If you do, there's going to be trouble, and here's what you're going to hear.
Okay, that's funny. I like it.
Now, I will then.
Hey, they fixed their audio.
segment,
It's no longer echoing in my head.
have 30
Thank
seconds
God.
to engage with me, and then
Come on, CNN. You guys got this. Or CBC.
and we are going to start this
All right.
debate with Mr. Scott Aitchison.
Scott Aitchison.
The floor is yours.
To me, he's the least crazy person on
My
this
vision for
stage.
Canada is to renew the promise that the next generation will be better off than today's. High grocery bills, a housing crisis, inflation, all make life harder. Millions of Canadians are struggling to make ends meet, and a Liberal government does little more than make inflation worse. This divisive rhetoric leaves millions of Canadians feeling frustrated and even demonized by their own government. The answer to today's challenge is not to fan the flames of those frustrations and make Canadians more angry. Those politics of division have left you behind. You deserve leaders who care more about your success than our own. I seek to lead the Conservative Party and our team to form a government that delivers more than just photo ops, but real solutions to the challenges we face.
You're
Join
done.
me. We will
Thanks.
build that future together.
Thanks very much.
Okay, that's not a bad intro. It's not bad. Not bad.
Say you want to take the politics of division out of the equation. How do you do that?
Repeat the question, please.
How do you take the politics of division out of the equation?
It's the divisive rhetoric that we need to take out of our discourse. And all parties are guilty of it. I'm going to give you the most obvious example, and I'm going to use the name of another party leader now because I think I'm allowed to. But if you look at the way the Prime Minister used vaccine mandates and actually divided Canadians by demonizing one
Mr.
group over
Aitchison,
another.
you know the rules. You just broke them.
Ah,
Okay.
I like that. I like that. All right, kick him off. Let's go. Next. Roman. This guy's nuts.
Thank you. My name is Roman Baber. My
This
vision
guy's
for Canada
absolutely
is
nuts.
to return to be an incredible democracy. That we don't censor people or speech. That we end 21st century segregation and let people make their own medical decisions. That we restore Canadian kindness and respect diversity of opinion. My vision for Canada is that we unleash our economic opportunity.
Oh, God, what-
by
this
making us a
audio,
natural
dude.
resources superpower. My vision for Canada.
What is up with this?
Work, love their families.
That can't be on my end, right? That's just on their end.
Alone.
Hold on. Let me just turn the... Let me... Yeah, it's on their end. Fuck. Okay, hold on. Let's refresh this shit.
Thank you.
Quick question, and we're going to get into the debate, but Mr. Baby, you want Canada to become an energy superpower in the world. In 30 seconds, tell me, how do you do that?
Yeah, so I think that our natural resources are a blessing, and I'm not going to let oil and gas be canceled.
I will be expecting some pretty clear answers to some pretty clear questions.
It's also good for our
Thank-
planet, because Canadians can derive and clean and safe energy better than any other nation in the world. We need to work with our provinces and restore the right balance. But
What is this
that's the
guy?
way out of the economic
What?
crisis we're in. Canada into a natural resources superpower.
What? We can pull things out of the earth safer than anyone else.
My vision of Canada includes a Conservative Party that builds a broad, multi-faith, multicultural coalition that can win. We've lost 3 elections in a row, and we've forgotten how to win in areas like suburban Canada, in the GTA where I get elected. We'll never win with a divisive leader who repels voters and doubles down on discriminatory policies that trample over the religious freedoms of Canadians. The choice before the party is clear. Do we want an unelectable party leader who drives voters?
Yes, we want an unelectable party leader.
Liberal traps giving unclear answers on divisive issues like abortion and wedges Conservatives against.
Yes, we do.
Are we ready to win?
Yeah.
I'm Mayor Patrick
No,
Brown.
you're not.
Ready to win.
You're not gonna win. I don't think you are gonna win.
Now, I just want to remind the audience, you're all crossing a red line here, so you want to be careful. Just let me pick up, Patrick, you're talking about, like Mr. Aitchison did, the politics of division. You
Politics of division.
mentioning the name of somebody on here, which you know is against the rules, so that's fine. But how do you take suburban Canada and make it conservative blue with the background that you've been talking about and
You
the
don't.
failures in the past?
You know, I look at suburban Canada, it's a mosaic of the country. And I truly believe, and I've shown, you can convince residents who have traditionally voted for other parties that their values are our values, conservative values. I've seen that in Brampton, I've seen that across the GTA. So it's really about building those relationships and telling our story, that we're the party that will fight to make sure we don't spend beyond our means, balance budgets, and fight for every Canadian. And that's key. We need to send a message. We'll fight for every Canadian, no matter their walk of life.
Patrick Brown would be a Democrat in the United States, and he's pretty close to a liberal anyways. I think he's a conservative who thinks he's he's a liberal who thinks he's a conservative and is masking that as tools to be able to
That means freedom from inflation, so that hard work
freedom from inflation.
can afford nutritious food for their
Pierre, you're in government right now.
inflation, so that
Freedom and from inflation.
basements that they can actually afford their own homes.
You're cute. This is cute.
Inflation and carbon taxes that have made it unaffordable.
Individuals don't pay carbon tax.
Gas. The freedom to speak without fear and censorship, and the freedom
Nobody's
to
censoring you.
make medical decisions.
You do have the freedom.
To be master of your own destiny.
You do. You can. You are. I don't even understand why he's getting any attention at all.
Here's the deal, supporters of any candidate, the time that you cheer is going to be taken away from your candidate. Just so you know, that's the way the deal works.
I like that.
Mr. Polyev, you talked about inflation and freedom from inflation. How many years is it going to take you to bring inflation down to what, 1% or 0%?
Well, it's hard to say how high it will be when I take office.
Yes.
No question that we have to hold those accountable who've caused it. Money printing, government deficits have caused more dollars chasing fewer goods, driving higher prices, and the Bank of Canada governor has allowed himself to become the ATM machine of this government. And so I would replace him with a new governor who would reinstate our low inflation mandate, protect the purchasing power of our dollar, and honor the working people who earn those dollars.
He doesn't care about you. He doesn't give a shit about your money.
Okay.
He just wants your vote.
We'll be getting back to that point you made in a minute.
Doesn't give a shit at all.
Your vision.
My vision for Canada is to once again make Canada a beacon of hope and opportunity for all. A nation where we respect our charter and where our government never has the opportunity to freeze our bank accounts without a court order. National unity is at an all-time low. Many people have been traumatized by COVID
The government.
lockdowns and government mandates. I'm running to be a bridge builder, to unite the party and to unite the country. Business owners will have the confidence to take chances again. We will develop our natural resources while protecting the environment without a carbon tax.
It's not possible.
We will respect freedoms and uphold our Charter of Rights. I'm running to make Canada one of the freest and most
Dr. Lewis,
prosperous
you're out
countries in the world.
of time. Let me quickly pick up on one thing that you said. You said that we have never been so divided, or national unity has never been so challenged. What are you basing that on?
If we look at that, we have seen families
I love this moderator.
by COVID. We see parents not talking to children. We've seen a government that has pit Canadians against each other. There are millions of people who cannot travel in their own country, people who are unemployed. The government has used COVID to divide Canadians.
It's a really easy solution to this problem. A really easy solution to this problem.
Folks, I've really got to. I don't want to stop the debate, but we will, if necessary. You've been asked a number of times now. Please don't do that. So I'm asking you once again. Please don't do that, or your candidate will get penalized.
Hey.
Finally, Jean Charest, your vision of Canada is.
Well, thank you very much. And first, let me say how delighted I am to be here in Edmonton, Alberta, and to join with my fellow candidates on the stage. You're asking the fundamental question of this leadership campaign, and the reason I'm running is because I see a country that is deeply divided. And I am running because I believe that national unity is the #1 challenge of any prime minister in this country. That nothing big, nothing of substance gets done unless we're able to bridge the country between the East and the West. And that's what I've done all my life. It's what I've fought for. And that's what the Conservative Party needs to be about in the next election campaign, to offer that national vision.
Let me just pick up on one thing that you said. You're talking about East and West. You know, in the battles gone by, it was always Quebec, and is Quebec in or is Quebec out? How much of the East is about Quebec, and that national unity piece is about Quebec?
It isn't just about one province. It can never be about just one province. It's about the whole country, Tom. And you know, on issues like energy, for example, whether it's oil, gas, or pipelines, or mining, we as a country need a national leader who is going to stand up for the resource industry. When have we ever heard the Prime Minister
We need somebody to stand up for the resource industry.
I think it should happen. And yes, please, I'm delighted to name him, but if you want me to.
You heard that.
I did.
You broke the rules.
Well,
You broke the rules.
I did it deliberately. Thank you.
We're moving on to the second section of the debate now, and let me just.
This is weird, dude.
Candidates
This is
are
weird.
all about. We are asking you a series of rapid-fire questions on a number of policy issues, and we're looking for a yes or no. The question will be very clear. There will be no doubt about the yes or no answer. But there's
Ooh,
also
this is gonna be fun.
seconds
I like
right
this.
away for you to expand a little bit or qualify.
This is gonna be fun.
You don't have to, but you can if you want to. Once everybody is answered, I will choose two of the candidates who perhaps have opposing views and query it a little bit more and let you talk a little bit.
All right.
And
This should be fun.
we will be moving on.
Let's see what we got here.
For this as well. And I'm just looking for how much time you've got here. 15 seconds, then 30 seconds when we come back, when I pull the two people in. Okay. Rapid fire question. Here we go. And we're starting with Dr. Lewis, and then we'll work down the line from there.
Dr. Leslin Lewis.
The war in Ukraine, as we all know, has been an unspeakable tragedy, and it continues as we speak tonight. Carnage and destruction are unimaginable. Do you support creating a no-fly zone over Ukraine?
The attack on Ukraine should be taken seriously. We have to ensure that
This
we
is a
do not
serious question.
exacerbate the tensions that are already there.
Is that a no?
Oh, that's right. No.
No. Thank you very much.
All right.
Moving
That's
on.
good. Thank you.
No, my mother's family is from Ukraine. I'm heartbroken. We're witnessing a catastrophic loss of life and infrastructure. There needs to be a greater effort to end the conflict. Escalation will not get us out of it. The only way to end it is to bring the sides to a ceasefire.
Mr. Charest.
We could only do that if our NATO allies agreed. Canada can't do that alone. We all admit that. What we need to do in Ukraine is three things. Lethal weapons for Ukraine. That's what they need. And
We
that's what
technically
Canada should
could
do
do
more
that alone if we really wanted to, but that would be
Ukrainians wanna come to
stupid.
Canada here in this country so that they're secure.
I'm not sure whether that was a yes or a no.
It's a no. If
Okay, it's
our
a no.
allies are not there, Tom, we can't do it.
Mr. Aitchison.
No, and I'll build on what Mr. Charest said. Part of the problem, of course, is that we've never met the 2% of our GDP in terms of military funding to
Also true.
to NATO. Canada's not a reliable partner in the world, and we need to do a lot better than we are.
I wouldn't say that's the main problem, but that is a problem.
Mr. Brown.
Yes, I believe Canada should push and
What?
actually advocate part of it to
Okay.
show that NATO is serious about these encroachments. We need to stand
Well,
steadfast with
somebody
the
just
Ukraine.
guaranteed a no.
No, but I believe we should provide more lethal weapons to our Ukrainian allies and offer refuge to Ukrainians who are fleeing. We also need to unleash Canadian energy production so that we can help break European dependence on Putin.
I actually don't think that's a bad take. It's not a terrible take.
Patrick Brown and Mr. Polyev on this because you
Okay.
have opposing views. Mr. Brown, you said that we should encourage and participate in a no-fly zone over Ukraine. You, Mr. Polyev, say no. So, Mr. Brown, let me ask you about the concerns that people have about escalating a war by doing such a thing as a no-fly zone, which would require offensive fire against, for example, radar stations and installations.
Well, I certainly don't believe we should abandon our allies, and the pleas from Ukraine need more than promises and best wishes. We are seeing an encroachment in Europe that has not been seen in the modern era, and we need to make sure they know that Canada stands with them more than our wishes and photo ops with the Prime Minister showing up in Ukraine. We need to give them all the support they've asked for, which includes, and that's the request from Ukraine.
And Mr. Polyev, if I could just play off of that, you say no, and yet it's the very thing that the Ukrainian government has asked for over and over again, the no-fly zone.
Right. The reason is that if we bring in a no-fly zone, it could very quickly escalate to Canada being in a war with Russia. And
Duh.
I'm not standing on the stage today promising to declare that war. I'm making the responsible position that will provide the material support necessary that we can as Canadians, both to the population and to those fighting against the Russians, but also do what we can strategically to provide Europe with an alternative source of energy so that the Europeans no longer have to fund Russia's war with the machine by buying all of its oil and gas.
Yeah, that's fair.
Thank
That's
you very
fair.
much, both of you. Next question, Mr. Faber, it goes to you. Way back in the 1970s, you may not be able to remember that, but nevertheless, ancient history. But Pierre Trudeau brought in supply management, basically a state-run system to manage dairy and poultry industries in this country, setting huge tariffs for foreign products and in the process inflating prices here at home. Do you support the current supply management system? Yes or no?
No, there is no free country when you have centrally planned economy. Instead of protecting supply
Yeah,
management,
this guy
and
is
central Politburo planning, we should
kind of an
cap
idiot.
How much dairy Canadians may produce? It's utter nonsense. I oppose supply management.
Mr. Charest.
I fully support supply management. I always have. And in this era of
Yeah,
supply
that's the right.
chain
That's
that
the
are
right.
disrupted,
That's the right take.
This is, in fact, a policy.
You
that
have to.
guarantees
You have to
us
support this
access
right now.
to food that we need. So I unequivocally
Mr.
support
Aitchison.
supply management.
No, I don't. In fact,
Wow.
supply management costs the average Canadian family about $600 a year. I think it's important in an affordability crisis that we actually help Canadians make food cheaper to eat. That's the problem with supply management. It's costing too much for Canadians.
Okay, well then lower the price.
Mr. Brown.
You got the government sets the price on these
The
things.
party has a history of supporting supply management, but I think it's fair in this affordability crisis to have a broader consultation with our membership.
Mr. Polyev.
I do support supply management. The alternative would be to buy out the quota. And
Yeah.
that would cost 10, 20, $30 billion, and that would have to be done through a tax on consumers, which could be more expensive
Yep.
than the alternative.
That's
We could
yeah,
lower food
exactly.
costs by getting rid of the carbon tax and other
Okay.
taxes. that
Okay. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Lewis.
Okay.
My apologies. Supply management.
I do support supply management. Our dairy and egg producers
They do.
Without supply management, our industry would be overrun by U.S. producers.
Wow.
I prefer to have a superior product that we'll pay a little bit more for, and if we want to bring that
I agree.
price, cut the carbon tax.
Okay.
Wow, there you go.
I
Hey,
can ask
that's a pretty good
Mr.
take.
Baber and you, Dr. Lewis, because you hold opposing views on this. Mr. Baber, why don't you tell Dr. Lewis exactly why it is that we should not have supply management and perhaps, as the critics of your position would say, put those industries into jeopardy?
So, one of the themes today is cost of living. At a time when cost of living is so high, visit a grocery store. Life is becoming unaffordable. Why not to increase more supply instead of telling farmers how much milk they can produce? We should encourage the creation of more goods, especially if we're worried about inflation.
He doesn't understand how it works. Holy shit.
We have quotas and we have concessions that people buy. We have to provide them with some ease down, but we should not cap how much Canadians can produce.
It's not what the supply management does.
Your position might say, what is a conservative doing supporting the policies of Pierre Trudeau on a state-imposed mechanism?
Well, from a free market perspective, supply management, of course, is not a free market ideology. However, we have to ensure that we support our farmers.
Yeah.
We have to ensure that Canadians get the best product on their table.
If you want to sell it all off to Americans, go for it.
Cut the carbon tax, and that is what is bringing up the cost.
And that's probably what they're going to do.
For Canadians.
Thank you very much, both of you. Mr. Charest, you get the first swing at this next question. As we've seen in the United States in the last couple of weeks, there are no laws around abortion.
Ooh,
Abortion
fancy.
is only allowed by the Supreme Court decision known as Roe versus Wade. And courts, as we are seeing, can change their minds. In Canada, we don't have any laws either on this. We depend on the Morgenthaler case, which essentially decided that it was not illegal. So the question is this: would you support legislation around abortion?
I am pro-choice, and my government would not bring in legislation or support legislation to change or to restrain the rights of women. The situation we have now is what we should maintain.
Yep.
And that is a very clear. They're all candidates except one on this stage has stated their position on this.
Mr. Aitchison.
I will always defend a woman's right to her personal reproductive health choices, period. Always.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Brown.
I'm pro-choice. I support a woman's right to choose, and any government that I lead would not revisit this issue.
Mr. Polyev.
A Polyev government would not introduce or pass legislation restricting abortion.
Dr. Lewis.
I am pro-life, and
Boo. Get off the stage. You do not deserve to be here. Get off the stage. Get off the stage. You're a fucking moron. Get off the stage.
no restriction on abortion. What we need to do is have conversations about what we believe in,
Thanks.
what we
We're out
agree
of
on.
time. Mr.
No, shut up.
I don't believe that government has a role in how people start and grow their families. If as conservatives who want to stay out of people's lives, then we should stay out of the most intimate areas of their lives. But that doesn't mean that we don't respect parliamentary democracy, that we gag our MPs, that we don't allow people to contest nomination. I'm wondering how all my friends feel about others in caucus who have different views.
Yeah, you tell them to shut up because it's unpopular. We talked about this yesterday. 10% support. Shut up. You're unelectable if you have those positions in Canada. Absolutely and entirely unelectable.
Well, it's not what's anticipated. I mean, it's clearly not the case. But on this issue, can we be clear on one thing? Every candidate in this race needs to tell the women of Canada where they stand, whether they're pro or against. The women of Canada, deserve to know where they stand. And Mr. Poilievre's answer, quite frankly, does not fit that test.
Okay.
It doesn't.
We will be taking 10 seconds away from Mr. Polyev, but Mr. Aitchison, get in.
I think that it's
Mr. Aitchison, please go ahead.
I think it's important for us to always be respectful of each other. There are really strong views,
No.
and deeply held beliefs on this issue.
No. There's no reason to respect people that are anti-choice. No reason.
Become factions, and we don't listen to each other and respect each other as we debate. differing opinions.
Human rights aren't negotiable.
And
So
this to me is about respect, and really I don't see a lot of that, unfortunately, on this issue.
Right. Thank you very much. Next question, Mr. Aitchison, we're going to start with you. Last year, Canada took in more immigrants than at any other time in our history, doubling the usual number of about 250,000, and we're planning to increase that number even more. So looking at the latest numbers of around just over 400,000, is 400,000 or a little bit more the right number to be bringing in every year into Canada?
Well, this much I know, we need more Canadians. We need more workers. We need more skilled workers in our economy. It's one of the reasons we have a housing shortage in this country.
that's true.
We need 200,000 skilled tradespeople in this country today. So we need more workers, whether 400,000 is the precise number or not, it should be targeted there.
Mr. Brown.
Fair point.
No, it's not enough. We're not meeting our skilled labor shortage, not even close. And the backlog right now under under the current Prime Minister is the largest it's been in Canadian history. He's not properly resourcing our immigration department. It's been a
It's true.
failure.
It's true. Immigration has not been Trudeau's strong suit.
We need the workforce, frankly, but when we bring immigrants here, we need to make sure they have the freedom to own a home by getting rid of the gatekeepers that prevent housing construction, and the freedom to work in their field by getting rid of the gatekeepers that prevent them from getting licenses in their professions and trades. So I will get rid of those gatekeepers and give them that opportunity.
Okay.
Lewis.
The issue is not about quantity, it's about quality. We need to make sure that we bring immigrants here.
No, the issue is literally quantity right now. It's literally quantity. What is how? Okay, so Lewis and Baber completely out of
I'm an immigrant to Canada, and I had every blessing
out of their minds.
And I think that Canada's multiculturalism is beautiful. We have an aging demographic, a shrinking labor force. We need to encourage lawful immigration. Democracy and opportunity is why immigrants come to Canada. Those are conservative values.
Thank you. Mr. Charest.
400,000 may be within the right zone, but it is very much dependent on our ability to integrate people. And how do we integrate? We integrate through a job. We integrate through language. We integrate by allowing people to integrate into communities. And credentials is one of the key elements to integrate Canadians.
Let's pick that up. Mr. Brown, I want to just explore a little bit more of your thinking. 400,000, 405,000, it's a record number for this country, but should it be 500,000, 600,000? We know that we've got a labor shortage. What's the right number?
You know, I was speaking to a friend of mine, Joseph Mancinelli, who's the head of LEUNA Canada, and he told me today, just today, they're short 30,000 workers. And these are in the skilled trades, great jobs, good paying jobs. And you could change the education system, but that takes 10 years in terms of creating a new stream of workers in the skilled trades. We need that immigration. We need that talent right now. There are jobs that they can't build. Houses we can't build. Bridges we can't build because of the lack of labor. We need to unleash the Canadian economic potential through immigration.
Good answer.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the next question now. Mr. Brown, this goes to you, actually. In 2014, at a NATO summit in Wales, the Canadian government, led then by then Prime Minister Stephen Harper, promised to spend 2% of our GDP on national defense. Since then, as you know, we haven't even come close. With a war on Europe's doorstep right now, and with our vast northern regions now vulnerable, would you meet the pledge of 2% that is our NATO commitment?
Yes, absolutely. Frankly, we're not taken seriously on a world stage when we can't even meet the obligations that we've committed to. And
True.
it's not just about a peacekeeping role abroad, it's about our own sovereignty, the Arctic, and so 100%.
Mr. Polyev.
We need to work towards hitting that goal, and we need also to make sure the money we spent gets results. Right now, too much of the procurement of equipment is tied up in politics and political favoritism. That's why billions of dollars have wasted, and products are not delivered to the front line for our soldiers, sailors, and airmen. So not only will we increase it, we will spend it well.
Yeah, that's good.
Unfortunately, we have not invested enough in our military. Yes, I would commit to meeting that 2%. Right now,
Wow.
we're funded, and that is one of the reasons why we have not been able to supply the needs that Ukraine could use to assist them.
Mr. Baber.
Yes, we need to increase our defense spending by 50% in order to meet our NATO commitment. If we're going to ask men and women in uniform to risk their lives, then they must have the best equipment and the best training. But I believe that our defense policy should be limited to safeguarding our country and meeting our treaty commitments.
Thanks very much. Mr. Charest.
Well, the answer is yes. This is an issue of sovereignty for Canada, and I put out a defense policy that's very detailed. One thing that I think we need to do urgently is assume our sovereignty in the Arctic. And I would open 2 bases in the Arctic, one with a deep sea water port to defend our sovereignty against Russia in particular.
Mr. Aitchison.
Yes. The sad reality of this is that our military procurement system has become a joke in the world, and we waste money, and we don't have the right equipment for our men and women in service, and our partners, our allies, are making new alliances without us because we're not a reliable partner.
Mr. Polyev, I just want to dig a little bit deeper into your answer. You said that we should work towards it, so not necessarily meeting it. But as you know, this is one of the main irritants in Canada-U.S. relations, regardless of the administration. When you say work towards it, have you got a time frame in mind as to when we get to 2%?
Look, it will take a progressive move because it's roughly an extra $14 or $15 billion a year. If you up the budget in 1 year, well, then you're going to have a bunch of bureaucrats at the Defense Department trying to shovel the cash out the door without getting proper results. In fact, they can't spend the budgets they have right now and get results. So I will increase it as fast as we possibly can within the confines of our costed budget and towards putting those dollars into getting results for our soldiers, sailors, and airmen.
Would you rather the government spend $16 billion, though, on the military or on housing?
You have a slightly different view as to what we should be doing.
Yeah.
Pretty easy answer.
Credibility in the world is eroded right now because some
Housing, in
don't believe
case
we're an
you
actual
didn't
democracy.
you didn't get it.
So we need to focus on
Wait, hold on.
while increasing
Hold on.
to meet
He said
our
other
commitments,
countries
but
don't think that we're a democracy anymore.
we should not go beyond our treaty commitments at this
A
point.
leader for the main opposition party just said those words on national TV.
God knows we have enough problems at home at this moment.
What a fucking moron. All right. I'm just glad we have idiots
Mr. Polyev,
on stage to make this more fun.
The Reconciliation Commission presented its final report in 2015. That is 7 years ago, and it contained 94 recommendations. Would you make a commitment to implementing all 94 recommendations?
I can't make the commitment to 100% of the recommendations, but what I can is to address the structural unfairness that leads to the injustice, and that is fundamentally in the Indian Act. We have to give First Nations communities control of their money, their land, and their resources. That is the only way that they will be able to have prosperity and paychecks for their people.
Dr. Lewis.
We need to make sure that First Nations people are at the table where the decisions are being made. And we also need to make sure that we keep our promises. We have been promising year after year clean water on reserves, and we have not delivered. If we cannot
Thank you.
deliver on
That's
simple
good. Mr.
promises.
Baber.
We have to be honest and learn our history so we don't repeat it. But dividing Canadians is actually hurting reconciliation. The best thing we can do for reconciliation is to improve the lives of Indigenous peoples.
Thank you. And Mr. Charest, just in case people forgot the question, is would you commit to
No shit, Roman.
reconciliation?
Well, the 94 recommendations, you can't commit to all of them. But Tom, Indigenous Canadians deserve respect, and a lot better than virtue signaling and false promises. They should be part of our resource economy. They should own equity. And I would put together a crown corporation that would allow them to own equity.
Okay.
Talking about crown corporations at a conservative debate,
I
that's...
didn't hear whether you were going to support all 94 recommendations, but can you tell me if you're not going to support all...
Oh, God. I didn't get you.
Oh, I didn't know you were here. I'm terribly sorry.
This guy's hilarious.
Don't, he's going to take time away from me. Stop,
No,
stop.
yeah. Mr. Aitchison, my apologies, please.
My answer is yes, I would. But I would also make sure we eliminate all boil water advisors. I would expedite the installation of broadband internet. And my approach to reconciliation is a journey, but it will be about fewer conferences in Ottawa and more action on the ground.
Thank you very much. Mr. Brown.
I actually don't hate him. I don't like him, but I don't hate him.
Indigenous communities will be essential if we are committed to building pipelines in this country. We need to have that strong collaboration. We need to get pipelines built. We need to create prosperity in Indigenous communities and across the country.
Okay, and I just want to bring you and Dr. Lewis in because there was just one thing I didn't quite understand. Would you, Dr. Lewis, implement all 94 recommendations?
I will implement any recommendation that uplifts the lives of Indigenous people. We have let them down. Even our missing and
She doesn't know them.
Aboriginal
She doesn't even know what he's talking about.
not committed to even dealing with that issue.
I don't think she knows what he's talking about.
Issue that affects the core of the Society on Reserves.
Okay.
I don't think she has any idea.
Mr. Brown, if we don't implement all 94, what ones would we not implement of the 94? Choose one that you would not implement.
Well, my answer was that I would support the recommendation. So I said yes, and I believe it's integral for us to have that strong collaboration if we're going to have the joint prosperity through the construction of a national energy corridor and pipelines. I just don't see how you can build partnerships with Indigenous communities to get pipelines built if you ignore the recommendations that are so important to Indigenous communities across the country.
Thank you all very much on that.
He's not racist enough to be the conservative leader.
Yes or no answers. We are now moving
Really just that simple.
what we call the lightning
He's
round.
not going to be popular enough.
Informed of this. Believe it or not, there are Canadians who don't know you guys and Dr. Lewis yet. So this is a chance just to get to know a little bit about who you are and character and likes, dislikes, and that sort of thing. I'm going to ask everybody the same question. We're just going to go down the line. Everybody gets a chance. It's a very fast answer. You'll see that these things are, you got 15 seconds to answer this, and we're going to be starting with Mr. Charest. And Mr. Charest, the very first question I have for you is, what book are you reading now?
What
Book are you reading now?
Oh, I was reading the most recent book that I've been reading has been about Russia, and I forget the title right now, but it's been about Russia.
Very good. Mr. Aitchison.
I'm actually reading a book that Dennis Mills, former member of Parliament for Toronto Danforth, gave me on water.
Do you remember the title?
Called Water.
Oh, it's called Water. Okay.
You want to know what it's about?
Okay.
It's about water.
Yeah, I get it.
It's about the future of water and the importance of water in geopolitical
Cool.
issues.
Mr. Brown, what are you reading these days?
Well, I'd say on a leadership campaign, let's be honest, there's no time to be laying around reading books, but historically I've loved, legal novels, the John Grisham books. Growing up, I loved Horatio Alger, the rags to riches stories, which is, our Canadian dream.
Mr. Polyev, what are you having time to read these days?
Well, Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules.
Oh my God.
Good lessons. We all need to.
What the
I
fuck?
think he has a lot of good wisdom in that.
No, Pierre, no. You can't say that with a straight face.
Way, it's about sacrificial leadership. It's about ending the service for others and being a leader.
You can't say that.
Thank you, Mr. Faber.
It's been difficult since the leadership started, but before that, a friend suggested that I read David and Goliath, and that's been a theme that we continue to exceed expectations. Sometimes
No.
people might surprise you and have an unlikely result.
Mr. Aitchison,
Keep praying, Roman. Keep praying.
Chance. There's a question and there's a twist to the answer. I want to know who your political hero is, and you cannot say Winston Churchill.
Prime Minister Diefenbaker. Prime Minister Diefenbaker, he was a tremendous orator. He brought us the Bill of Rights. He was an amazing Canadian who defended Canadians' freedoms and enshrined them in law.
Mr. Brown.
Absolutely, former Premier Bill Davis. I felt he radiated decency. I learned more from him than anyone else. He lived only a few doors down from me in Brampton, Ontario, and I think his legacy is one that is enormous in our country.
Mr. Polyev.
Well, Wilfrid Laurier. He opened up the West to immigration. It brought many of my ancestors here. Though he was a Catholic, he made a point of reading a Protestant Bible so he could understand the other side. He said that he used to pick fights with the Scottish boys and flirt with the Scottish girls and manage to bring all the Canadian nations together into this wonderful country we call Canada based on the principle of freedom.
Thank you. Dr. Lewis.
Point of clarification, did it have to be Canadian? I didn't hear.
Just your political hero as long as it's not Winston Churchill.
William Wilberforce. He spent his life fighting for the abolition of slavery, even though he never knew whether or not he would see that materialize. But he had convictions to stand up for what he believed in.
The pro-life lady.
It didn't matter if it sacrificed his political career.
Okay.
Thanks very much, Mr. Baber.
Margaret Thatcher. Or we will not stand at all. Making decisions. She stood up to the
I'm dying.
left.
I'm dying.
This is something that I hope we're going to restore to the Conservative Party of Canada. Courage to say what we believe and do what we believe is right.
Mr. Charest.
Darcy McGee, born in Ireland, went to the United States, traveled to Canada, renounced Irish nationalism and gave his life for his country because he was assassinated, one of the only political assassinations in the country, by Fenians.
Thank you all very much. That was actually really interesting to hear all that. Dr. Lewis, I'm going to start with you, and then, of course, everybody else gets a chance. I know you're all busy. I know that you've got stuff that you're doing right now.
Okay,
When
hold
you
on one
have
sec.
The opportunity to sit down and listen to some music. What do you listen to?
I would say probably jazz is my go-to.
Who's your favorite jazz artist?
Coltrane.
Cool. Okay.
Amy Winehouse. When I hear Amy Winehouse, I can see into her soul. She speaks to issues of addiction and mental health, something that people know that I'm very, very passionate about. And she left us too early. Yeah, Amy Winehouse, Back to Black.
Okay. Mr. Charest.
Well, for jazz, Pat Metheny, but my family and I are also great lovers of Charles Aznavour.
There we go. Mr. Aitchison.
Well, I play the piano, so I love to listen to Oscar Peterson. But since my assistant Parker has been driving around with me, I'm starting to listen to a little more country music, so I'm learning a bit more about that.
Okay. Mr. Brown.
Well, I think I have to say Alessia Cara, because I'm from Brampton, and Alessia Cara is our most famous musician right now. And but I should also say MIA. We're trying to get them for our Canada Day party. A great story of overcoming adversity.
Terrific. And Mr. Polyev.
Well, pick a local hero, Paul Brandt, Alberta Brown. You got to let them applaud that, Tom. Come on.
Okay.
Cool.
I'll allow the applause because it's for Paul Brandt. Okay.
You'll have to take it off this time.
Yeah, I'll take it off his time. Yeah. Mr. Brown, I want to start with you. What do you think is, and remember, 15 seconds. Okay? What do you think is the single biggest threat to Canada today?
Our financial chaos right now. We're $1.2 trillion in debt, and if you allow the finances to get out of control of the country, you lose all capacity to deal with the challenges in your country. 1.2 trillion, $2 billion a month in interest.
Thank you very much, Mr. Polyev.
Well, I would build on that. It's not just the 1.2 trillion federal, but the other plus trillion provincial, and then the other $7 trillion of private debt that is about to collide with higher interest rates. The government and the central bank have set us up for a massive debt crisis, and we don't have time to avoid it.
Thank you. Dr. Lewis.
I think our declining democracy, people have lost trust and confidence in our democracy. The invocation of the Emergency Measures Act and freezing of people's accounts without a court order has led people to question our institutions, such as the media and our political institutions.
Thank you. Mr. Baber.
100% with Dr. Lewis. The erosion of our democracy is the greatest threat to Canada right now. Government is passing law to censor speech. Millions of Canadians are treated like second-class citizens. State-funded media bailouts and state-funded media, an unlawful declaration of the Emergency Act. Okay. I'm going to defend Canada's democracy.
Right. Mr. Charest.
None of those have anything to do with democracy.
Well, it is national unity. The greatest mistake we all could make as Canadians is to take this country for granted. And of all the things you've named on this stage, colleagues, none of them can be addressed unless there is a national conservative government that includes Alberta at the table. That's what is the most important threat, our national unity.
Mr. Aitchison.
I'd say that's closer to the right answer.
The greatest threat to Canada right political system that's designed to divide us to win votes. It's short-sighted and doesn't build a country up at all, and I think it's dividing our country.
Yeah, it might be. That's not really the point.
I want to go to a question maybe a little more lighthearted, to getting to know you a little bit more. And there were a lot of people who want to know this. It's not just me, trust me. But Mr. Baber, what was the last thing that you binge watched?
Oh God, what kind of questions are these? These are the dumbest fucking questions. I'm not gonna lie. I wish we could skip ahead, but
That was some time ago.
nope.
I learned the English language watching Married with Children with subtitles. It's a great tool for new Canadians to learn English. Watch a good TV show.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Charest.
It was a French series that was absolutely fantastic because it speaks to relationships. C'est Appelle mon agent, call my agent in English. It was absolutely spectacular.
I like that one too.
Yeah.
Mr. Aitchison.
My parliamentary colleague Eric Malillo got me hooked on Brooklyn Nine-Nine while we were doing French immersion in Quebec.
It's a good show.
Mr. Brown, yeah.
You know, normally if I have free time, I love watching hockey. No surprise there. But my wife got me into Ozark, and we binge watched it. And I'm told there's a new season out right now, and I'm too busy to watch it. So I'm in trouble with my wife. Well,
I've
to watch it without me.
I've seen the final season, and I won't tell you how it ends. But you can imagine. Mr. Polyev.
Well, I think it was Netflix had a series on Trotsky, actually. And it helped me to better understand the diabolical evil of communism and totalitarian socialism. But, you know, the bright side is it helped me appreciate the freedom that we have in Canada that we have to stand up for and defend.
Thanks very much.
Cute.
Dr. Lewis.
Cute. I have to go watch that. I didn't know about that.
What I loved about that is that people, it was a different era, and people did not see race. They
Oh, God.
just existed and coexisted, and it was very beautiful because I also watched it in French and also improved my French.
Okay.
Oh, I improved my French. Good job.
Question left, and then we're going to go back to some other stuff. But this is a good one, Mr. Polyev. I'm going to throw this one to you. What historical figure from any time, anywhere, would you most like to have dinner with?
Abraham Lincoln. I think through
That's weird.
and courage, he saved the American Union and ended slavery. He did so at great, obviously, ultimate personal sacrifice with his eventual assassination. But he had incredible brain that he taught himself as an autodidact, coming from humble beginnings as a working class person.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lewis.
Nelson Mandela, he
Can we get
at a time
any
when
more,
this country was divided,
um,
torn apart by racial hatred, and yet he fought against it. He
I'm not gonna say
was
that.
able to overcome and bring people together.
Mr. Baber.
Ronald Reagan, he opposed one of the greatest evils of the 20th century, opposed the radical left and communism, and did it with grace and with courage. And we need to be
Ronald Reagan was a fascist, Roman. Are you a fascist? I think you are.
Thank you very much, Mr. Charest.
Cool.
I'm a great fan of the partnership of Sir John A. Macdonald and Georges-Étienne Cartier. And my son and I wrote a chapter in a book about Georges-Étienne Cartier, who showed extraordinary resilience, promoted property rights, and was one of those who allowed this country to actually come to be.
You know, Sir John A. would probably stick you with the bill for that dinner, but that's another thing altogether. Mr. Aitchison.
Mine is actually Nelson Mandela as well. He's a hero. How he brought South Africa together and ended apartheid is nothing short of miraculous and incredible.
Final word to you, Mr. Brown. Dinner.
I'll agree with Mr. Schrey. John A. Macdonald, I resent the cancel culture we're seeing on great figures who built our country, and the adversity, the challenges of uniting our country, building Canada. That would be a fascinating dinner.
This is just the weirdest. This is the weirdest thing I've seen.
Thank you all very much. That was fascinating. I know it was a weird little journey to go on, but I think it was interesting. We are now moving on to the next segment of the debate, which is called Face Off.
This is so weird, dude.
And before we start that, I'd like to bring Em up, who is going to give you all a prop.
Oh God.
I'll explain
Props.
what this is all about.
We're getting props.
So as we are handing
Yes and no sides.
this
Oh, I like.
is the segment want to debate on any
Ooh.
particular issue. And here's the way it's
Ooh.
going to work. I'll introduce the topic of the debate to a candidate.
Future of energy, environment, law and order, cost of living in the North.
Tell the audience who you want to debate this with. Once you've chosen your opponent, I will then tell you what the question is. There will be 3 rounds of the person you have chosen to debate. The first round, each person gets a minute each. The second round, you get 45 seconds each. The third round, you get 30 seconds each. Now this is where it gets interesting and why you have the prop in your hand. After we've done the 3 rounds between the 2 people, anybody else can enter this by simply raising your paddle. And you will have a guaranteed 30 seconds to put your 30 seconds in with. Here's the trick. There are 6 questions and you can only use your paddle 5 times. You can use it all on one question if you want, or you can use it wherever you think you have the greatest advantage. So there is some strategy involved here.
Paddle strategy, boys and girls.
Good luck with this. Now,
This is just all right. Let's go. Let's see. Come on. Come on, Tom.
Mr. Polyev, the topic is law, order, and blockades. Who would you like to debate?
Patrick Brown.
Ooh.
Patrick Brown. Okay.
Interesting.
Here then, Mr. Polyev, is the question. And remember, you have 1 minute in the first round to say your piece. We've seen over the past few years blockades at our borders, blockades on rail lines, blockades of construction, blockades at logging sites, and a blockade and an occupation of our capital city. Law enforcement experts say we will likely encounter more and more of this as the years progress.
Yep.
How do you decide when a protest becomes a threat to our national security and our national economy, and would you outlaw any protest that disables critical infrastructure, and that includes our cities?
And that includes
Our cities.
I believe that blocking critical infrastructure should be illegal. And that's why before the truckers even arrived on Parliament Hill, I said I supported their peaceful and law-abiding efforts to restore their liberties and their livelihoods while condemning any individuals who broke laws, blocked critical infrastructure, or behaved badly. That's what individual responsibility actually means. Now, I just find it interesting that you didn't include in your list of threats the axe-wielding terrorists who've been attacking our pipeline workers in Western Canada. I don't know why that doesn't seem to be a trouble to you, but or the rest of the national media, because you're more concerned about truckers who lost their jobs because of an unfair vaccine mandate imposed on them by a prime minister who was targeting them without any scientific basis than you were about holding accountable people who've actually done violence and most recently just set the car on fire of someone who was investing in the energy sector.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. You have
Based.
I
Based.
don't support illegal blockades, whether it's at the Ambassador Bridge, whether it's against a pipeline. I think Conservatives need to stand for law and order, full stop, and illegal blockades have a massive cost on the country. You look at the cost when there was the blockade on the Ambassador Bridge in Windsor. I was just visiting Mayor Drew Dilkins in Windsor just last week, and he was talking about how it affected their economy, Ontario's economy, Canada's economy, and I think Conservatives are the party of law and order, and we can't give exceptions to that.
Of course you are.
Stop, no illegal blockades.
You haven't used your full time, but if you want to give it back, that's fine. We can always use it.
Well, in terms of law and order, I would just add that there are areas that the Conservative Party have not focused on enough in Parliament. I look at bail reform. You know, I see it in the GTA. There is a giant loophole in our criminal justice system, and you've got frequent flyers. Literally, the same people getting arrested and released again and again, and there's a cost to public safety with that.
Mr. Polyev, you have 45 seconds.
Well, there is, and there's also a cost to the approach taken by Mr. Trudeau and Mr. Charest. They both believe in targeting law-abiding
Clever.
who use
Clever.
arms responsibly after having been vetted, licensed, and are already in possession of a
I'm very pro-gun, so
training.
I'm actually interested in this.
Gun registry in Quebec. Trudeau wants to spend $1 billion targeting these same people. That money that Charest and Trudeau spent going going after law-abiding people could have been spent reinforcing border security to stop the 80% of gun crimes that actually come in through smuggling and through
Based.
also, instead of going after the lawful, target the criminals who would do the crimes with mandatory prison sentences to take them off our streets.
Okay, well, no, but
You know what? We do have a huge problem at our border, and I get briefings almost on a weekly basis by the chief of police in Peel, and we've had meetings with all the chiefs of police in the GTA to talk about smuggled firearms. 90% of our homicides last year in Peel were from firearms smuggled across the border, and we need a government of Canada that would take that seriously. Criminal organizations are becoming more sophisticated than ever before in terms of getting firearms into our country using new technology, and we need to actually listen to our law enforcement. In Ottawa, we have a government that announces photo ops and press releases when it comes to firearm policy. They're not listening to law enforcement, and we desperately need them to.
Mr. Polyev,
yeah, the Liberals don't really care.
And what Trudeau is now doing is unlawful censorship. C11 is an attempt by him to give his bureaucrats the power to control what you see and say online.
This is true.
Down things that he doesn't.
This is true.
That is not lawful. That is not democratic. I will repeal those laws, and I will restore freedom of speech as a principle for the federal government, and also bring financial penalties to universities that shut down open and free debate on campuses.
Well,
Mr. Brown, 30
that doesn't happen, but
I would just add that when it comes to firearm legislation in this country,
this is Canada.
Bad legislation on top of bad legislation, and we've got a government that is missing the mark. One of the reasons we've had a proliferation of gun and gang violence, where there's no respect for postal codes and jurisdictions, is there isn't a concerted national approach. Under Prime Minister Harper, there were serious consequences. We understood that we had to draw a line when it came to gun crime in our country, and we need the same strict approach again.
Thank you very much, the two of you.
So
Mr. Charest, you're
that's not how
anybody else
that's not how it works, but all right.
Mr. Charest, 30
Thank you. And
seconds.
since I've been brought into this debate, let me start by pointing out that Mr. Polyev is very conveniently rewriting history tonight. The fact of the matter is, he did support illegal blockades. We all admit that this was a mess created by Mr. Trudeau, unnecessary, a total mess. But I disagree with anyone who has a privileged position of making laws supporting illegal blockades that have cost us millions of jobs and cost us investment in this country.
Thank you, sir. Mr.
That is a good yeah, it's a good
This is a good
pushback.
opportunity to set the record straight. Everything that Justin Trudeau said about the protests in Ottawa turned out to be false. There
Well,
was no
that's not true.
collusion. There was very little foreign funding. The arson was not connected, and there were no weapons found anywhere near the site. And on February 18th,
Wait,
we saw
what?
as the government was breaking the rule of law with an unlawful declaration of emergencies, the protesters remained peaceful. There was no resistance, no assaults, and on February 18th, we saw this was a truly peaceful movement.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lewis. Go ahead.
Okay.
I think
Well, people are going crazy again.
About the illegal blockades, if elected officials had just listened to the truckers, they would not have been there that long. In addition, the vulnerability that Canadians face, knowing that Big Brother can go into their account and freeze their account without a court order, that has set our democracy into a declining state. We need to uphold our Charter of Rights. We need to uphold our freedoms and ensure that governments never do that again.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Did I support it? No. Did I support the protest though? No.
Second chance.
You can
But an important issue.
You can be
my
against
first
both.
workshop was at a community legal clinic where I picked up a lot of compassion and love for people. Far too often, our criminal justice system criminalizes addiction and mental health. I'll come down hard on sex offenders, on gun violence and traffickers, but imposing strict criminal penalty for possession does nothing to deter drug addiction or heal addiction.
This guy can have a
mental health
good
and
take.
addictions catastrophe in our country, and we need a justice system that recognizes it and offers Canadian a treatment and a way out.
Thank you very
Wow.
much. And Mr. Polyev.
That's the first not insane thing he said.
Point about the government's abuse of the Emergency Act to freeze bank accounts. Well, now there's a proposal to create a central bank digital currency, which would involve people depositing their accounts, their money, with the government itself. This gives massive new powers for surveillance, control, and censorship.
I'm against CBDCs, but that's not really how they work.
I would ban a central bank digital currency and give people back control of their money from bankers and politicians.
Dr. Lewis?
The general idea of a CBDC is basically what we already have anyways.
Which is a digital currency. So I'm quite surprised that he is saying now that he would ban digital currency as if he does not know that
Oh God.
is a digital currency.
Oh God.
He
She's
also
so dumb.
encouraged people to cash
She's so dumb.
their fiat currency, their paper money,
She's
and
so
buy
dumb.
Bitcoin. If they had done that, they would have lost $37,000 by the time he had said that to do that to today. So I'm concerned about that.
Mr. Polyev?
Well, that's just false. One, Bitcoin is not a central bank digital currency. It's
Dumbass.
obviously not. It's not controlled by any central bank anywhere in the world. Two, people can make their own investment decisions. I've simply said they should be free to decide whether or not they want to use Bitcoin. I don't want to be like communist China and ban Bitcoin or other technology.
Hey, that's based.
People should have the opportunity to make those decisions for themselves.
You do. You should. Yep. 100%.
Are we done? No, Dr. Lewis, one more time.
In fact, Mr. Polliver said that you could hedge against inflation, which is not true. So Mr. Polliver is promoting a decentralized currency over
I think
his
she's.
own
I think she's go. I think she's
That is a
losing her
problem
mind.
for someone who held a shadow cabinet position as a
She.
finance
She.
minister.
She broke. He broke her.
Sorry, Mr. Charest and then Mr. Brown.
Well, on Bitcoin, I mean, everyone just finds it totally bizarre what Mr. Polyev is suggesting. We all get it on blockchain, that's fine. Bitcoin has lost 60% of its value since November of last year, 20% in the last month. Anyone following his advice that we saw on YouTube would have lost 20% of their earnings. Do you actually think your parents enjoy having your parents lose 20% of their retirement funds? I mean, this
Yeah.
is
Don't suggest this to stupid.
and
Just
it
don't.
doesn't make sense at
A
all.
politician should never be suggesting
I have to agree
people
with
buy.
Dr. Lewis and Mr. Charest. I disagree with Mr. Poilievre's approach that you can opt out of inflation with cryptocurrency. Magic internet money fluctuates vastly, 30% or more in one day. And the last thing we should be doing is encouraging our parents and grandparents, along with vulnerable families, to gamble their savings.
I'm a crypto believer, but yeah, you can't be a politician and yeah, this is.
Well, Mr. Brown, that's not what I said. You're misleading the public. I clearly stated that people should have the freedom. Now, the reason why many people have chosen to exercise that freedom is because central banks have been attacking the value of our national currencies by printing $400 billion here in Canada, leading to 30-year highs in inflation, doubling the house prices, leading to massive volatility.
Money printing has almost nothing to do with house prices.
That risk is one I pointed out
Not zero,
and could lead to
but
another debt crisis.
almost none.
So frankly, we should protect the value of our traditional money rather than banning private money.
Mr. Brown, you're up.
So Mr. Polliver just said that he didn't say that. No one in this room and no one in Canada will believe that you didn't say you can opt out of inflation through cryptocurrency. That is misleading. Your words are there. You can Google it yourself and watch it on the internet. And I have to say, it is bad advice to be giving to Canadians that is so risky. And
Yeah,
you should know that.
don't listen to Pierre about
That's not the advice you should be giving
about
to the country.
finance. It's just a bad idea.
Raise your paddle for one more time.
Mr. Brown, if you want to talk about risks to people's finances, you were the one who said you promised when you ran for the leadership of the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario, you would oppose a carbon tax. And then as soon as you got in, you reversed yourself entirely. Not only did you endorse just any carbon tax, you endorsed the carbon tax of Justin Trudeau, which is in place today and recently increased and is one of the reasons why prices are so high across this country. That is a threat.
Again, almost zero
That's a decision you made after you promised
to
not
do with anything.
believe a word you said.
The problem is that Pierre is right
Politicians here, career politicians, giving people investment advice.
while also being so wrong.
Okay, there's digital currency controlled by government that has government friction potentially and compromises their privacy. And then there's investment decisions that people make. Human ingenuity is great. We We should encourage research and development and diversified portfolios. But we should behave like conservatives again and not tell people what they should and should invest in. Maybe we should oppose supply management. Maybe we should oppose equalization. We should not be afraid of being who we are. Enough.
Mr. Baber, that's great.
Mr. Baber, that's great.
You've only got 5.
Mr. Baber, that's great.
I don't know, but somebody over there does. And they will tell me, and I will tell you. All of this conversation, though, leads neatly to my next question.
This is so dumb.
And, the topic is the future of the party. Mr. Charest, who would you like to debate?
You guys are at least supposed to be good at like economics and finance. If you can't,
Here we go. The question. The leadership campaign, this leadership campaign, has been particularly vicious on a personal level. We've seen that. We've heard candidates call each other liars, accuse others of having no integrity.
I mean, they're all liars and none of them have integrity.
There are also deep divisions on a lot of policy issues, from abortion to zero emissions. The conservative movement has split before in the recent past. We know that. So the question to you, Mr. Charest and Mr. Poilievre, how do you make room in the conservative tent for all those who hold opposing views to yours? How does the party enter the next election? How can the party enter the next election united? Mr. Charest, you have
And
1
Tom,
minute.
this is for all those listening to us tonight and in the room. This is the key question. They know, everyone knows that the Trudeau government needs to get out of office, and they're looking to the Conservative Party of Canada as the national alternative. And the question they're asking themselves is this: are you up to the task? Are you, yes or no, going to be a national conservative alternative and party? That's our challenge, ladies and gentlemen. And what is that party? It's based on core values that we all agree on. Fiscal conservatism, a market-based economy, economic policies that promote economic growth, including oil, gas, pipelines, and mining. Families also, all sorts of families, plus respecting the rule of law, a foundation of our society. There is no freedom if you do not respect the rule of law. There is no freedom. And it includes a federalism that conservatives practice, that includes Alberta, includes Ontario, Quebec, that actually makes this country work.
Mr. Poilievre, you have 1 minute.
We need to unite the party around freedom. Social conservatives want the freedom to raise their kids with their
Freedom!
values and preach their faith without censorship. Fiscal conservatives want the freedom to make their own financial decisions, control their own money, including without excessive taxes or carbon taxes. Rural conservatives want the freedom to own and control their own property. Progressive conservatives want for women, minorities, First Nations to have the freedom to make their own decisions without discrimination. Libertarian conservatives want freedom of speech, freedom to make their own decisions online, and freedom to speak without the government censoring them. So when we unite the party along that consistent principle of freedom, then we bring all the various parts of our party together, and we electrify and excite a new generation of young people that I've been bringing into the coalition. So
there's just not that many of them. That's really the thing.
Mr.
There's
Charest, you have 45
your voter base.
Running as a hyphenated conservative, ladies and gentlemen. We've had enough. We'll leave that to the Trudeau and the left to hyphenate everyone. I am not a hyphenated conservative. I am a conservative, period. You know what values I espoused and practiced all my life. And once we are rallied around those values and we're together, you also know that we will respect those who don't agree with us, who may have different views. And Mr. Poilievre talked about social conservatives. Let's talk about that. He still won't tell you his position of whether he is pro-choice or pro-life. I respect social conservatives. They will always have a place in our party. They are good people, faith-based people who deserve a place at the table and in the family.
Mr. Poilievre, 45.
I believe in freedom of choice on that issue. I already said that at the very beginning. So I don't know what you missed. I don't know if you were listening. Yes, it is. That's what I said. But Mr. Charest, why didn't you take a moment to acknowledge that you're the only one on this stage who actually voted for a law that would recriminalize abortion when you were part of the Mulroney government? You did. And you can take a moment now to renounce your earlier vote if you've changed your mind, but that was your position. You seem to have forgotten it. You've forgotten a lot of things about your record. You've forgotten you brought in a carbon tax. You forgot that you raised the fuel tax, the sales tax, the health tax. You forgot that you banned natural gas development in your own province. You forgot you brought in a long gun registry. You seem a little bit forgetful about your record, Mr. Charest, but Canadians now remember.
Okay, that was the best moment so far. And that's a killing blow. That's a killing blow.
I am very proud of my record as a conservative that stands on its own merits, on fiscal conservatism, on
I don't have a side, so this is more fun.
reducing taxes, which I did when I was premier, by the way. Quebecers had $1 billion less taxes paid and higher disposable income after I finished in government, ladies and gentlemen. And by the way, Mr. Poilievre, thank you for at least now telling us that you are pro-choice. We understand that's what you're saying tonight. Please confirm that for us.
And Mr. Poilievre, you have 30 seconds.
I did confirm my position that I will not introduce any law on abortion as Prime Minister. I made that very clear. But Mr. Charest, you're wrong about your tax record. You raised the sales tax, the carbon tax, the fuel tax. Just like Patrick Brown, you're trying to flip-flop on it and say one thing on the stage different than what you said before. And the overall tax...
I don't think you should bring Patrick into this. I don't think that's a good idea. He's on a winning streak.
Your government. That is your record. You can't run away from it. I have a clear, solid record as a tax cutter that leaves more money in people's pockets.
Thank you. Mr.
He's saying all the right things, and Charest can't really...
Pierre Poilievre just ran on a carbon tax on a carbon tax and knocked doors in Carleton literally 6 months ago, literally in the last election.
This is true.
Let's talk about the future of the party. The future of the party, we have to win where we've lost. We've lost in suburban Canada. And I don't see us winning any new seats. Actually, I see us losing seats if we run on the same discriminatory policies that Pierre Poilievre's had a history of supporting. We must be the party that celebrates and supports religious freedom, not tramples it. Full stop.
Thanks very much. Dr. Lewis.
Well, Mr. Poilievre said that no pro-life bill will
I think the Conservatives under Aitchison or Brown could actually run to the left of Trudeau.
on issues of life.
Let's answer.
If you use your paddle, you can. That's
Well,
Okay.
he's been silent on the issue, so.
okay. And Mr. Poilievre, you've raised your paddle. You have 30 seconds.
I do believe in free votes. So there's your direct answer. And as for Mr. Brown, sorry, Patrick, you told the members of the Conservative Party in Ontario that you were against a carbon tax. Then you flip-flopped and embraced a carbon tax. You said that you were a pro-life social conservative, and then after you became leader, you said that social conservatives were intolerant dinosaurs.
They are.
You said that you would get rid of the sex ed program in Ontario, and then you embraced it. You now attack all the Harper government policies that you enthusiastically supported and embraced when you were part of his caucus.
Thank
Nobody
you, Mr.
can believe a
Poilievre.
word that
Is
you say.
anybody else wanting to get involved?
Yeah, I don't think Patrick
Mr. Aitchison,
Brown really has a
30 seconds.
shot at this, but
Listen, I appreciate everybody talking about the importance of all the different types of conservatives. I think Mr. Poilievre gave us a great list of all the different types of conservatives. It is important for us to respect each other and have respectful dialogue, but it's not enough just to unite conservatives. We need to win over swing voters.
yeah, you have no chance if you only have Conservatives. You only have like
Extremely difficult, especially if they watch some of the national
25 to 30%, maybe. If you're really lucky, you might get 30.
Sorry, Mr. Baber.
I'll unite the party by restoring democracy in the Conservative Party, but most importantly, bring back disillusioned voters. Our party failed to stand up for many Canadians against lockdowns, against mandates, until the truckers came to town. Many Canadians felt that we've abandoned them, so they voted for another party, or they didn't vote at all, and now they're disillusioned with our party. I'm the only one on the stage who stood up for Canadians for 2 years, for a year and a half before it was popular, and I'll bring back disillusioned voters. We cannot win if we're not united right of center.
Anybody else?
Cute.
Mr. Baber was not the only one who stood up for Canadians who lost their jobs due to mandates, who were discriminated against, who cannot fly. I also stood up for those Canadians, and I wanted to make that point.
And Mr. Brown, I believe you've got one left.
Okay. Well, let me be very clear. I was one of the only big city mayors in the country that didn't impose vaccine mandates. No firefighter, no police officer, no long-term city employee lost their job in Brampton. I stood by the right to have personal health choices. And I have to say, it's surprising during the leadership campaign that all of a sudden Pierre Poilievre comes out against mandates because in the heat of the battle, he didn't say a word. He was hiding in his basement at a time that I had longtime
Oh,
municipal
basement
employees
call.
in Ottawa calling me asking for help. I give Roman Baber credit. He was there. He was heard. Dr. Lewis was heard. Disappeared.
Thanks very much. It would seem appropriate for me at this point, and I'm getting the information in my ear, but I want to pass it on. Mr. Brown, you've got one intervention left. Mr. Polyev, you're out. You've used your 5. Dr. Lewis, so have you. And I'm waiting to hear. Mr. Baber, you've got 4. You've got 1 left, Mr. Baber. Mr. Charest, you've got 3 left. Oh, God, you're keeping count. And you've got 4 left. Is everybody clear on what you've got and what you don't? Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Lewis, this next question is for you.
Oh no,
The topic
more
is
brain rot.
Who would you like to debate?
I'll debate Mr. Aitchison.
Mr. Aitchison and Dr. Lewis.
Interesting
Here's
choice.
the question for both of you, starting with Dr. Lewis.
These are the 2 most, probably furthest apart people on the stage right now.
But the export growth of these commodities has been constrained by pipeline infrastructure. You've all said that you would boost the building of pipelines. There are multiple jurisdictions, as we know, that need to be involved in that process. So the question is this: how would you do this? Who would pay for these pipelines, and how
Dun,
would you
dun,
deal
dun.
with indigenous or provincial
Questions.
Dr. Lewis.
Investing in Canadian oil and gas is the best way to grow our economy. We can enter into agreements with indigenous populations that will actually enrich those populations. And many of those agreements have been entered into, and it has been beneficial in uplifting those populations. We also need to ensure that we eliminate Bill C-69 and Bill C-48, which is really crippling our local capacity to develop our oil and gas. We have to get our products to market, build pipelines. We could go through Churchill and get our products to Tidewater and offset dictatorship oil.
You haven't used all your time, but if you're conceding it, I'll go to you, Mr. Aitchison, for 1 minute.
Well, I mean, I think it's safe to say that everybody on this stage is pro-pipeline, but we do need a real plan. Mr. Polyev talks about the gatekeepers in the federal bureaucracy, and of course there are a lot there. And so probably the first thing I would do as leader of the party and as the Prime Minister is I'd make Pierre Polyev my Minister of Natural Resources to deal with the gatekeepers and solve that problem. Gatekeepers he can fire. Second, we need to
Good call.
create a framework that allows more building. Clear and concise rules. We need clear guidelines, timely approvals, set timelines on these things, and get the process moving and make sure it's not delayed. We must simplify and speed up this process, stop dithering, and provide certainty. This is one of the biggest challenges that we face. Investment doesn't like uncertainty, and this is part of the problem we face here is uncertainty. We need to make it clear, concise, and put timelines on it, and I think Pierre would be perfect at that.
Dr. Lewis, you have 45 seconds.
I think it was very short-sighted for us not to invest in pipelines, and we're seeing the implications of that now. In Europe, 40% of all the oil that's purchased is purchased from Russia. We're actually financing the war between Ukraine and Russia by not getting our products to offset dictatorship oil.
Canada doesn't buy oil from Russia.
1,000 barrels of
We
oil.
haven't since
We have the largest
2009.
accessible oil reserves on the planet, which we are leaving untapped. It is a great resource that we could use to rebuild our economy, develop our infrastructure. For every job that's created from the oil and gas sector, 7 splinter jobs are created across the country. This could help us out of the recession.
Mr. Aitchison, to you.
Sure.
Yeah,
Whatever.
I would also add that, of course, I think we all agree that one of the reasons we're also pro-pipeline is because Canada's energy is the answer to a lot of problems in this world today. I mean, we see what's going on in Ukraine right now. In Canada, we don't even have the capacity to scale up to help countries like Ukraine.
It's not true.
Countries like Germany and Europe. Because we're not ready. We haven't been doing the work. We've had a liberal government that's just gotten in the way and made things more difficult.
What are you talking?
Every step of the way.
They gave them
Good for our
more money.
It's good for our environment, and it's good
Just
for
did a video on that a couple days ago. Check it out.
Canadian energy is something
Clean fossil fuels. Clean fossil fuels.
from their production by over 30%.
My favorite kind.
I guarantee you Venezuela's not doing that.
What?
Part of the question, which is who pays for this?
Okay, I have to go to the bathroom. I will be right back.
Part of the question
Yeah, who pays for it?
Well, if we're building pipelines and we're selling our products and we're getting our products,
Who's paying for it, Leslyn?
we will have enough resources
Uh-huh.
we can reinvest
Uh-huh.
into our economy and
Who?
hopefully improve
Who?
the lives of
Who?
the region.
Who?
Even in the north,
Who's paying for it, Leslyn? Who?
in improving those individuals' lives and
How is
making
this-
sure that we build critical
How is this real?
infrastructures in the north,
How is this real?
bring down the cost of fuel,
Who?
assist with the
Who?
high cost of food, and cancel the carbon tax.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. 30 seconds left for you.
And you're asking me who pays for the pipelines?
Yeah.
Yeah, industry should pay for the pipelines.
Yeah.
No question about that. And if there is certainty in the process, there's certainty in the system, they're more than happy to make those investments. But it is the industry that should be doing it.
Terrific. Anybody else want to get involved in this discussion? Going, gone? Well, I think only two of you.
Okay, I will be right back.
So let's move on to the next one. And Mr. Aitchison, this is a question to you, and the topic is the North. Who do you choose to debate?
Mr. Davis.
Mr. Baber it is. Okay, and here's the question, Mr. Aitchison. The largest part of our land mass in this country is north of where most Canadians live. And while incredibly beautiful, as we all know, the North is struggling economically, demographically, and now with melting ice, its very security may be at risk as hostile nations move to take advantage of that area. One could argue that the North is our biggest challenge, but it's also our biggest opportunity. So, what is your vision for the North?
My vision of the North includes actually engaging in the North. I think Mr. Charest made a very good point about making sure we have not just one, but two deep water ports in the North. You're quite correct that ice is melting, and there are other nations that are cruising through our northern waters and not all that interested in what we think about it. We need to defend the North, we need to engage with the North, and we need to be making investments in the North. But that includes, of course, our military commitments. We need to be making sure that we're not just committing 2% of GDP on military spending to meet our NATO commitments, but we also need to be making sure we're meeting commitments to protect Canada. And it's not just enough to be protecting the
What did I miss?
the North Coast, and it's been neglected, and we need to invest more there. And so I fundamentally think that this is about engaging all parts of our country and making sure that we can secure it at every port, at every coast.
Thank you. Mr. Baber for 1 minute.
Thank you. The best way to help northern communities is to unlock their natural resources potential, and not just oil and gas. I'm very interested
Exploit them more!
right now around the world for precious
Fucking
metals,
idiot.
precious minerals, and Canada and the North are blessed with them. And we can do this. We can strike the right balance.
People like this.
We can consult stakeholders, and we can protect the environment. But we need to end this resistance to the development of natural resources. And northern communities are going to be the greatest beneficiaries of that. That also means we'll improve infrastructure and build roads and highways in the North. Let's bring northern communities a true economic opportunity. Let's build roads. Let's start building and working in our country again. Let's get back to work.
Mr. Aitchison, back to you for 45.
He's
I think speaking about the North also provides an opportunity to talk about housing, which is an issue that has not come up in this debate yet. And it's a crisis in this country, and it's particularly a crisis in the North. And we need to commit as a federal government, not just to ensure that big cities and southern Canada is getting things built, but we need to make sure that we make a commitment to the North as well, because the housing situation there is as much of a crisis or worse than anywhere else in Canada.
True.
And so housing would be a crucial investment to make sure that we're engaged and making sure that the health of residents in northern Canada is sound.
Mr. Baber.
I want good paying jobs in the North. I had a gentleman approach me a couple of months ago who I didn't know, and he told me that his company owned a mining permit for 15 years, and they weren't able to go ahead because local stakeholders would not consult. I know that the Supreme Court recognized that there's a duty to consult, but it doesn't mean that we can't strike a balance. We can be reasonable again. Let's mitigate environmental risk. Let's agree on profit sharing, but I will not allow to hold up the development of Canada's natural resources.
He's just a straight eco-fascist.
And most importantly, we need them to get
That's all he is.
the mess
He's an
the
idiot.
government is leaving us in.
He's an absolute idiot.
You have 30.
Some debate between Roman and I think we were agreeing on almost everything here, and I think that's kind of nice. I don't really have much more to add on the issue. I think that there's been a lot of talk over the years about engaging in the North, and not a lot of action. I think that's pretty typical of this Liberal government. We've seen, when it comes to housing, lots of photo ops, but not a lot of ribbon cuttings. And I think that's disgusting, and we need to do better. And Conservatives are a party of action. And so we will get these things done, and we will engage with the North and actually do it.
I believe that his intentions are at least kind of good,
Oh, I'm sorry.
but I also think that
Complicated show. Okay. Mr. Baber, go ahead.
he's also full of shit. I don't know. He's the he's the least terrible one on the stage, I think.
Perhaps it will give me an opportunity to politely respond to Dr. Lewis. I'm the only one on the stage that opposed lockdowns. I was removed from the Doug Ford caucus in January 2021 when I spoke out about the collateral harm that we're causing our health and mental health by way of locking down healthy people instead of a focused approach against a very transmissible virus. But I appreciate that she joined against mandates subsequent to the last general election. Thank you.
Mr. Charest, did you raise your hand? Or did
May I respond since it's...
No, if you I'm sorry. No, you can't. Mr. Charest, go ahead.
No, you can't.
Thank you, and Scott and Roman
Calls himself the underdog.
I agree with, and thank you for a very constructive discussion on the North, to which I want to add. Yes, I would build 2 military bases in the North, one with a deep water port. This is one of the most important issues facing our country, and this is a good city to talk about it. Edmonton has a very deep connection to the North, but it also includes affirming our sovereignty.
I would argue that
things like
Edmonton is the
armed icebreakers,
last
submarines.
city
We also need to,
before you
build
get to the
be
North.
able to patrol the
So,
North.
yeah, that makes sense.
Solidifying our agreement with the Americans on NORAD.
We're done. Anybody else want to? No. Okay. We're going to move on to the next question. Thank you very much, Mr. Baber. This is for you.
Oh God.
The subject is cost of living, and who would you like to defend?
Oh no. What is he gonna say?
Mr. Charest
Oh God.
and Mr. Baber on this question. We have seen a rapid rise in the cost of living for Canadians at levels we haven't seen in 40 years.
I bet you he blames it on like communism or something.
Every Western country is going through this right now. Under your leadership, is there anything a Canadian government can do to reverse the worldwide trend without making the wealth gap any larger in Canada than it already is today?
The answer to that question is no.
So I think it's important that we acknowledge the cause of inflation and the rising prices. It's not just $500 billion in debt that we printed in the last 2 years. It's lockdowns, something no one on the stage other than myself was willing to acknowledge. We stopped the global supply chain at its tracks numerous times and then restarted demand again. Supply is not catching up to demand. The best thing we can do right now is to provide the market with some certainty. I will never allow for any lockdowns or any stoppages. I'm also going to restore discipline to government.
Oh shit.
We're spending way
This
beyond our means, but in terms of
This is getting a little weird.
I'm going to repeal the carbon tax on day one.
This is getting a little weird.
I will cut income taxes across the board with money saved from equalization payments. I would rather that Canadians spent them instead of provincial governments. We are the conservative government. We should not be afraid to be talking about cutting taxes.
Mr. Baber, thank you. Mr. Charest.
Well, Roman, on the issue of lockdowns, and I agree. I think one of the things we need to do if we don't want to have the lockdowns and the restrictions we had the last time is change our healthcare system so that we have capacity. That's one
Oh
of the
God.
reasons why
Oh
Canada
God.
had more
Oh God. Don't do it.
restrictions
Don't do it.
than anywhere else
Don't do
in
it,
the
Gene.
world, because we
Don't
know
do it.
We need to open up this healthcare system so there's more
Don't say it.
flexibility, more private
Don't.
sector participation
Oh, he said it.
in this.
He said
On
it.
inflation,
He
we
said
need
it.
to reduce spending.
He
and
said
we
it.
also need to, I think, reduce the income tax load of Canadians. I did that during the Great Recession, and we had a better performance than Ontario, Canada, the United States, or Europe. lower unemployment, and stronger economic growth. Those are the things that we can do to increase the disposable income of people, which is exactly what happened after I was premier. The disposable income, especially of lower income people, increased substantially because we reduced taxes and controlled spending.
Thanks very much. Mr. Baber, you have 45.
We should never lock down, Mr. Charest. No matter what the circumstances are, we have to acknowledge the toll that this took on people. A mental health pandemic. In Ontario alone, more than 300,000 surgeries were delayed. More than 1 million cancer screenings missed. The whole point is that the toll on our health was considerably greater. Instead, we should have been we should have been protecting vulnerable populations, keeping up our settings where 80% of the risk was. We should have been increasing the healthcare capacity we had, but we should acknowledge lockdowns, the effect on our children, effect on small business. This is something that we cannot escape, and we need to think about and resolve going long term.
Well, and we agree that we need to avoid the lockdowns, and that's why I would change the Canada Health Act. I'd introduce a new hat because Canada's issue has been capacity.
So he wants to get So Jean Charest, he wants to get rid of the single payer public health care. That's exactly what he's talking about right now.
The governor of the Bank of Canada, his suggestion that
ooh, this is clever, because Pierre can't paddle. He doesn't have a paddle. This is dirty.
Coming from a member of the House of Commons, you'd think you're in a third world country.
This is real dirty.
We cannot afford to have any leader who goes out there and deliberately undermines the confidence in institutions. Conservatives do not do that.
Mr. Baber, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to the cost of living. The political class is out of touch with Canadians. Prices for produce, for instance, have tripled. This may be one of the greatest challenges that Canadians are facing right now, and we need to do.
I thought it was lockdowns, Roman.
Make life more affordable for them.
I thought it was vaccine mandates.
Repeal the carbon tax. It's increasing the price on everything. Let's cut the income tax, and let's stop.
You know what? I feel like I want to check this right now.
Well, on the carbon tax, I agree with Roman that we need to get out and repeal the Trudeau carbon tax on consumers. And I would be inspired by Alberta. Here in Alberta, since 2002, and you renewed this in 2019, there is a price on carbon for large emitters. And let me point something out here. This is extremely important to get it right. Otherwise, we will not be elected as a political party if we're not credible on this, A. B, we will not get investment unless there is a predictable investment environment on an issue like pricing carbon.
Thank you. That round is
Okay, so it is increasing the price of gas directly at the pump. I have an EV, so I don't pay for gas.
As do you, Mr. Aitchison. No, I know you're out. Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay, we are now going to move on to the next question. And Mr. Brown, the issue is climate change. Who would
I mean,
you
this
like
is
to be?
this is just from Global, so I'm not really sure.
Okay, Dr. Lewis. And
All right,
Dr.
whatever.
Brown.
Let's get back to this. I think there's one more question after this.
In 2015, almost every country in the world, including Canada, signed on to the Paris Accords to fight climate change. To date,
Interesting.
not a single G20 country is on track to meet that obligation. Should the Paris Agreement still be the benchmark for Canada in measuring itself by, and if yes, would you commit to meeting
What is she going to say?
the Paris Agreement
What is
by
she going to say?
2030, and who will bear the cost of getting us there?
So first of all, I should say that the Liberals promised Canada to targets they have no intention, no plan.
This is true.
To meet.
This is true.
The problem. We need to have a credible environmental plan to actually achieve the
They have
targets
basically no plan.
I don't believe in Canada committing to targets that we're unable to commit. And frankly, it is photo op environmentalism. How is
This is true as well.
environment to be
Where are you going with this?
foreign dictator oil
Where are you going with this?
into Canada? I find it infuriating that I can't use when I fill up the pump in Brampton, Ontario. I can't use and be a wealth generator for the Canadian energy sector. And I have to say, the fact that our Prime Minister this Prime Minister doesn't understand that is a huge toll on our economy. It's costing Canadians more. Looking at the latest stats, 73,000 barrels from Saudi Arabia lost to our economies. He hasn't invested into our energy corridor 14 billion. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Brown. Dr. Lewis.
Okay.
Canada signed on to the Paris
But
Accord.
what is your answer?
Meet their targets. The U.S. pulled out of the Paris Accord. They met their targets under Donald Trump. The issue is not whether or not we sign on to the Paris Accord. The issue is the resolve to make sure that we leave the future for future generations better environment than what we inherited. There is no partisanship in the environment. We must work together to make sure that we are protecting the environment. The carbon tax doesn't reduce emissions, it just increases revenues.
This is true.
We need to ensure that we adopt technology that will bring down emissions, that will increase conservation, and we have to have a credible environmental plan, and that plan has to have a component of education to change the way we interact with the environment.
So is Paris a go or no?
So you look at China, one of the greatest polluters in the world, 30% of the global emissions. To help with environment, we need to export clean Canadian energy to the world. Since 2014,
I'm actually.
LNG projects, none approved.
Oh, LNG. Okay.
7 were built, and now they have 22% of the global market share. So the question about helping countries reliant on coal have clean Canadian energy should be how Canada could help abroad. And right now, we need a
LNG is not clean energy. It's cleaner energy, but it's not clean energy. But it is easily transported. So, I mean, this is true. This is absolutely true.
Well, that person certain. I know that Mr. Brown does not refer to me on that one. So it is very important that we.
This has been the most awkward event.
Cycle of a product. So even when we commit to something like net zero, we should not be virtue signaling to use the environment as virtue signaling. We have to ensure that we look at the entire life cycle of a product. So even if we have a green product, we have to look at the entire production from the start to the finish, such as energy, such as green cars.
Green cars
is the entire product.
Guys, help.
So if the premise to get pipelines built is Indigenous collaboration, I'd have to ask Pierre Poilievre the question how he believes he could ever get a single pipeline built in this country when on the
Fair.
Prime Minister Harper's historic residential school apology, he attacked in a disgusting manner Indigenous Canadians, saying they lacked work ethic. Someone who attacks Indigenous partners, who we require
Based Patrick.
will never be able to build a single pipeline in this country.
This is true.
Dr. Lewis, you have the last 30 seconds.
I just wanted to expand on my comment about the entire life cycle. I'm very concerned with things like vehicles.
Oh God.
Do not consider the fact
She is.
it starts off in poor countries, in some African countries where children as young as 5 years old are working in cobalt mines.
Yes, this is bad.
The environment, we must think of the entire.
Where are you going with this?
Entire life cycle.
Yeah, that's bad. We all admit that that's bad. Everybody knows that that's bad.
Mr. Charest.
Well, this is
I don't understand.
for us. We need to do
Thank you, Captain Obvious.
carbon capture and storage, hydrogen, blue, green, biofuels, small modular.
Hydrogen is a good idea.
Alberta,
Yep.
Ontario, New Brunswick, Saskatchewan are working together to develop those technologies. Replace the carbon tax of Mr. Trudeau with something similar to what Alberta's doing for large emitters, and have a credible policy on this in the next campaign, ladies and gentlemen. Otherwise, our government will not be elected.
Mr. Aitchison.
Yes.
I actually would propose a similar plan to what former Prime Minister Harper had in 2008. It's similar to what Mr. Charest has proposed in this campaign. In fact, I'm making my cabinet right here as we go. I'd make him Minister of the Environment, probably. And I think we need
Okay,
to offer a balanced
I do like him as a person. His policies are pretty bad, but he seems like he's a good person, or at least not a shitty person. He's funny.
We need to take an opportunity to sell our products to the world to help countries like China reduce their emissions.
Yes, we should be an exporter of clean energy and clean energy technology, so that countries like China can use our tech and hopefully improve their own situation. Closing statements?
No doubt you have been dying to say something about
Yep.
what has been discussed here today. So I want to go down the line, and we'll just take it in geographical order here, starting with Dr. Lewis and go down the line. 30 seconds to say anything that you have wanted to say that you didn't get to say so far. 30 seconds each, Dr. Lewis. Up to you.
I wanted to add on my point for the environment.
Oh gosh, she's still going.
Without punishing average Canadians. Every time they're filling up their gas tanks, they're heating their homes, they're putting food on the table, they're being punished with the carbon tax. I would cancel the carbon tax.
Thank you very much. Mr. Baber.
Thank you.
First of all, I really enjoyed today's debate, and of course I appreciate the tone. I think it's okay to have a little bit of fun as we did last time around. And also I think that we should encourage people to speak more freely. A lot of candidates may wish to respond to one another. We should perhaps accommodate such opportunity. And finally, if I may.
I agree with that.
In the 10 seconds they'll give me.
Because it's just you can be very strategic and very clever on how you talk in this debate.
Conservative Party. And unfortunately I'm out of time.
You're out of time. Mr. Charest.
I look forward to working with everyone on stage here, and Mr. Aitchison, I appreciate the invitation. I want to talk about resources and point something out here about Canada. We have a knowledge-based economy, but a good part of our exports are resources. Whether it's mining, oil, gas, whether it's pipelines, we need to stand up for the development of our resource industry. And we need a prime minister who's actually going to say this is a good idea. We can do this and transition to zero emissions in 2050. It is possible to do it, and only the Conservative Party of Canada has the ability to offer that leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Charest. Mr. Aitchison, what have you been dying to say?
Well, I guess I really think it's important to say that as Conservatives, we need to have the courage of our convictions to defend our values and our principles. Our values and principles as Conservatives are timeless. And if we stick to those, and if we offer a principled, consistent message to Canadians, we can form the next government.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brown.
We hope you don't.
I believe in technology, not taxes. In Brampton, will be the first big city in Canada to have a fully electrified transit fleet, clean, green,
Based.
no emissions. I should
Based.
also say, we need to have a conversation about a carbon tariff at the border. The fact that some candidates on the stage are okay to allow India and China to flood the market where they have no environmental standards, they have no labor standards, and compete with Canadian goods is wrong. We need to create a Canadian advantage and protect against product being dumped with no environmental cost.
Good statement.
The biggest issue I've heard about that people haven't talked about today
Freedom.
is housing.
Okay.
3-year-old people living in their parents' basements. We have the fewest houses in Canada per capita in the G7.
What?
At the same time, our central
I mean, that's
bank
probably
is
true,
money to
but
inflate prices. The solution is, of course, to fire the gatekeepers. I've already announced that I will fire the governor of the central bank to get inflation under control, but I will also tie infrastructure dollars for cities to the number of houses they allow to get built by removing the red tape and allowing builders to build homes for our young people to live in.
Thank you very much.
depending what that looks like, that might actually be a good plan, but I highly doubt it.
Final section of the debate.
Oh, final section.
And once again, all the candidates have been advised in advance of this, and it is simply to, as we started the debate with the question, what is my vision for Canada is, ... This question is, why should I be the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, ... 45 seconds to each of you to answer that question, and we are going to start with Scott Aitchison.
I believe it's 30 seconds.
We've increased it to 45.
Oops.
We must welcome more people to our party if we are to succeed, but we cannot do it with angry rhetoric and attacks on each other. Leaders always engage, empower, and inspire the team around them. As leader, I will bring Conservatives together, and we will earn the trust of all Canadians to govern again. I know our best days lie ahead. With our team focused on all that unites us, we will fulfill the promise of a brighter tomorrow. And if you seek a Conservative government focused on making life more affordable, join me. Join me at votescott.ca. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aitchison. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Tom. I want to be leader of the Conservative Party of Canada because we need a leader who can defeat Justin Trudeau, not just yell at him. We need to expand our party with new members, new supporters, new volunteers, and most importantly, new voters. But it'll never happen if we choose a leader who repels voters and supports failed, election-losing policies that trample over the religious freedom of Canadians. I won in the GTA by proving to voters who have traditionally not supported the Conservative Party that their values are our values, conservative values. With your support, we can do that on a national scale from coast to coast to coast and win.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brown. We are now going to Dr. Lewis. 45 seconds.
Are we not doing Mr. Polyev? No? Oh, me? Okay.
We drew for these slots, and you drew number 3, so
Wow.
Thank you.
there you go.
This is special.
Canadians are tired of legacy politicians that will say anything to get elected.
Really?
Wokeism and cancel culture are robbing people of their voices. Our Charter of Rights.
This lady's not real, is it? Is she? This is a meme, right?
Work tirelessly to heal our institutions and win back the trust of Canadians.
She's a meme, right? Like, she's not real.
I hope
This
you will
cannot be a
join
real
me
state, like
this
real
movement
statement,
to
real
restore
position.
our declining democracy and return prosperity
Return to monkey.
because only then will we remain glorious and free.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lewis.
Glorious and free.
Tom, there are millions of Canadians who are orphans in this country right now. They're political orphans, and they are looking for a national.
I was about to be very concerned for the children of Canada.
We need to be that party. I want to lead that party. I want to unite the party, and I want to offer a national vision, not based on anger, not based on tearing down institutions, but on building our country. We are the most privileged citizens in the world. We won the lottery of citizenship. We should be living up to that aspiration, passing on to our children the country that we received from our parents. It is your responsibility and mine to do that. And as leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, I will give you a national majority government.
Thank you, Mr.
Cope.
Charest. Mr. Polyev.
Mr. Charest has been huffing copium.
Elderly people who have to choose between heating and eating. Single moms who can no longer afford sporting for their kids. Full of grown adults stuck in their parents' basement, not able to start.
That's like the 5th time he said basement.
For the future. Inflation out of control at a 30-year high, and a government that instead of hearing these concerns tries to censor them by cracking down on the population. I'm running for Prime Minister to put you back in control of your life by making Canada the freest nation on earth, by removing the gatekeepers so that we can build more homes for our young people, unleash opportunity for our energy workers, reduce our energy costs so everyone can go where they want and heat their home. Make this the country that is the freest on earth so you can take back control of your life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Polyev. And final word goes to
Some of his rhetoric is a little bit troublesome.
Thank you. My name is Roman Baber. I was born in a communist regime, and I'm very scared.
I knew he was going to bring up communism.
And I'm running to become Prime Minister so I can defend Canada's democracy. With me, what you hear is what you get. For the last 2 years, I've been stating here
Idiocy.
to defend Canadians because I'm not afraid to say what I believe. I'm not afraid of cancel culture or the left-wing lockdown mob. I love Canada and I love Canadians. And you can always count on me to defend you and your family. No
He's
matter
funny.
how hard it gets, you will always know where I stand. I ask that you become eligible to vote at joinroman.ca and that you rank me number 1. Thank you so much for welcoming all of us tonight.
LOL.
thank you, candidates, very much. It was a challenging format, but I think that we did well. I just want
All right.
everybody to know that you will all be the band. We're getting the band back together again on May 25th in Laval, Quebec, for the French debate.
I don't speak French, so I will probably not be doing that unless if there's a good one with voiceover, but I don't think that's probably worth doing. So real quick, I'm just going to go over what I thought of this debate and what I think is actually going on here and where I think that this is heading. So I think that Pierre had the best moment of the night when he was able to stomp on Jean. And I think that as far as if anybody really made any improvement in their positions, if I go to Twitter real quick, hold on, let's check out the Twitter. And I go to Canada polling. Let's just see here. There it is, polling Canada. Let's just do a quick check here real quick. So this was the leadership race poll. Here's the first poll from Echoes. Had Polyev at 57, Charest at 14, Brown at 9, and Lewis at 7. The other two, Atchison and Baber, were not listed. And I don't think that Pierre lost any ground today. I think that list right now is probably about where it would be, and I think that you'll see. I think Patrick Brown will probably finish second in this race behind Pierre, and I don't really think it's going to be close, to be honest. It might be over in the first round. Pierre might get 50% in the first round of voting, but I'm not really sure yet. In my mind, none of these people should lead Canada. But I think that one of them will. And so I was looking at something the other day, and basically there are certain organizations and groups that will recommend that Canadians do certain things in order to be more politically effective. And one of their recommendations was for Canadians that were of other parties to join X parties to basically influence contests like this. And so in my mind, I don't think it's worth average Canadians joining the Conservative Party. I would not recommend that. But if you wanted to be a little cheeky, I would say that Scott Aitchison is probably the least terrible choice of those six based on this debate and the one that happened the other day. And I do have some worries about a Pierre Poilievre-led Canada. Yeah. So that was the debate for the night, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, please subscribe to the channel. It was fun, and I hope to see you guys next time. Until tomorrow, have a great day, folks. Peace, y'all.